Hello everyone, welcome back to New Earth, where we are going to make shelter, energy, food and water basic human rights. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to come together and you can learn all about that at newearth.land. But in this video, we're going to talk about how you can become enlightened. 3 steps to enlightenment. And so step number 1 is simply this. When we wake up in the morning, what do? Right? We put our clothes on, we get ready, right? We're already focused on certain events and tasks that we have to fulfill before we even leave the door. And then what we do, we leave the box, which is our house. We get in another box, which is perhaps a car or public transport with a myriad of other people. Then we get to another box, which we call our office or a place of work, wherever that might be, right? We are surrounded by 4 walls and a roof, okay, for a extended period of time throughout our lives, it seems. And so throughout this process, work, home, surrounded by people, we are remaining constantly focused, paying attention, often to things that are right in front of our eyes, like our phones, our computers. And then when you're speaking to friends, you're talking to someone who's, about 2-3 feet away from you. And so this is a very restricted state of consciousness that we're in constantly. And you go out in the countryside, of course, it affords you a little bit more of an expanded state of awareness. But in the cities, by and large, we were very much remaining in a contracted state of awareness, but all this information is just flooding our minds all of the time. And so step number 1 is to simply see how long you can go by spending time on your own and see what happens. Watch what happens with your mind. So if you are spending time on your own, of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to enter a different state of consciousness. It just simply affords you the opportunity to start thinking differently. And this is what leads us on to number 2. And number 2 is to begin visualizing and imagining and meditating, although that word has become sort of hijacked by this notion that we have to sit on top of a mountain and just sort of but it's not that. It's just simply daydreaming, using the dormant innate mental faculties that were left at the door of Western education, such as visualization, intuition, and most importantly, imagination. To the eyes of imagination, nature is imagination itself, as William Blake said. So what we need to do is create a cerebral environment that's conducive to awakening. So step number 1 is to spend more time on your own, which will help to create a more conducive environment, as I say, for the cerebral event known as a chemical wedding. And this is what happens when you unite and marry the left and the right brain hemisphere, the feminine, the masculine, Joachim and Boaz in Freemasonry, the electron, the proton, the sun, the moon, okay, the king and the queen, the yin, the yang, so on and so forth. This is what we need to do. We need to spend time alone to create that cerebral environment. And then when we are spending time alone, we need to begin using the mental faculties, namely, principally, visualization. There's nothing to do with intellect here. It's all just humble amazement. Or look up into the night sky. Start to visualize your existence, your tiny little being here on this tiny little rock in space. We'll have many more exercises like this in the future for us to all engage in to help and assist in the expansion of consciousness by way of the activation of imagination. And then step number 3 is to then, when you're spending time on your own and visualizing, of course, you're not going to perhaps want to be doing this all the time. So reading books that help to also stoke the fires of awakening and help to assist, the mind in its imaginative state, the daydreaming that has unfortunately been frowned upon in the workplace, where we have to pay attention all the time. And then, if you're not very good at paying attention, then they'll give you a label like ADD. But, we're not supposed to be paying attention all the time. We're living in a rat race. We're living in a condition of indentured servitude for survival. And this society is not conducive to the expansion of awareness. And that is absolutely foundational to our solving all the problems in the world. So step number 3 is to start reading literature that's going to open your eyes to this sort of information. Because the brain is sort of like a microcosm of the earth, and that being the macrocosm. We have the east and the west. We have the left and the right brain hemisphere. In the east, the right brain hemisphere, we have a lot of spirituality, talks about these things that we've been conditioned to ridicule. Consciousness, what is that? We'll make videos about that. and imagination, meditation, all these things can be scientifically understood, and indeed they have been for years. You get into the works of people like Rudolf Steiner, and other authors and philosophers like Alan Watts. Research all the philosophers: Plato, Socrates, Plutarch, Porphyry, the Neoplatonists. See what old Friedrich Nietzsche was talking about, Carl Jung. All these people. Start reading their works, and you will begin to see that things aren't quite the way that they should be in this world. You will begin to see that something is awry, something is amiss. Henri Bergson, another one. And of course, the Hermetic literature, the 7 Hermetic principles, the 7 natural laws. All is mind, the universe is mental, being the first of those principles. And so those 3 steps, just real briefly, spending more time on your own, like they show you in the Truman Show and the Matrix, is absolutely critical, because you're sort of like an average of the 5 people you spend most time around. And so their consciousness is infecting your consciousness, and it's keeping you restricted. And so when you spend time on your own, you allow yourself the opportunity to look up into the night sky and begin to visualize, begin to imagine all these things. That's step number 1, spending time on your own. Step number 2, just to recap, is to then visualize and imagine, not just go on your phone, not go on your computer, but actually just walk around in nature, listen to the birds, pretend that you are that bird, project your mind into the perspective of that bird looking back at you. Things like this is actually what Rudolf Steiner talks about in his book, How to Know Higher Worlds. And then, read some literature. It's very hard for us to have the time to do this because we're all psychologically enslaved to this socio-economic model. And therefore, reading the books that allow us the opportunity to begin to contemplate. Wonder is the beginning of philosophy, right? Curiosity is the key to higher consciousness. Those 3 steps, okay, they're just very brief steps that we can all take to try and expand our minds into a higher state of awareness where we can actually start to resolve all the problems that we're faced with and start to live the lives that we truly want to, because individually, we all want to be experiencing self-actualization, right? We all want to be up there. And we can do that once we have fulfilled our basic physiological needs, and that's what this is all about. But for us to get there, we need to actually activate people's heart chakra, people's true care, so that people, will start subscribing, and we can all come together and we can put an end to this absolutely psychopathic fascism that we're experiencing today, unfortunately. And many people have yet to realize that that is the condition that we're in, because it's sort of like a covert psychological manipulation that we're experiencing. But those 3 steps there, I would recommend, for embarking on this path to enlightenment. And when you do finally reach that chemical wedding and that enlightenment, you will know about it. It'll hit you like a sack of spuds. You'll begin to realize that your reality is a phantasmagoria. What you thought was formerly just the cold Cartesian external world is in fact your own being. You are nature and the universe itself. Things get pretty fascinating once you have experienced this. And, I look forward to hearing your tales if you've already reached and had this type of experience. And if not, then do subscribe, because we'll be making more videos like this to help people in expanding their awareness so that we can become more compassionate, more understanding, more knowledgeable, more privy to the workings of the despotic deep state. So, with that said, thanks very much for watching this video. Do watch the other videos. I've made a video, and I will make a video, on what enlightenment actually is. And I'll put that up here somewhere. So do watch that, and do watch some of the other videos around. Like, we've got lots of different playlists we're going to have here. So it should be interesting. And do check out, of course, the site newearth.land, where you can see the architecture and the why, how, the what, the when, the where of exactly what it is we're doing here at newearth.land. So with that said, thanks very much for watching this video, and I will leave you with a couple of quotes. Heed these words, you who wish to probe the depths of nature. How do you expect to find outside yourself that which you seek? Hidden within is the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and the gods. And Carl Jung echoed a similar sentiment, and the reason why step 2 exists, which is about visualization, right? And remember, William Blake said, the truth can never be told so as to be understood and not be believed. But the quote that I want to leave you with today is Carl Jung. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. So yeah, we'll leave it at that this time. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.